All right, everyone. Thank you all for attending. Hi, team. So today I'm going to talk about Union, the sovereign interoperability layer, and to be honest, about secure interoperability in general. I'm Karel, 0x Kaiser Karel on Twitter. I'm a developer and systems engineer by background and founder of Union Labs, where we do light client-based interop, and basically I think some of the best tech in the space. Our belief really is a massive horizontal scalability. We're building towards a unified roll-up-centric future. I kind of believe in the 10,000 app-specific L2s and everyone having full control of their entire stack. A state machine for every single product out there, all asynchronously composed, but in the end achieving the same UX as monolithic stacks, so similar to Solana or Ethereum. That's really the goal, what we're building towards, what we're seeing right now happening with Celestia and such. Perhaps it's going to be kind of the next 30 years of crypto. Perhaps it's only this cycle. But we're believers in horizontal scalability. First, I want to dive into a little bit why we do kind of Web3 composability and what we're really building. In the end, of course, the objective of crypto is to build the world computer. For those that read, obviously, the Ethereum yellow paper, that's what we're building initially. A single global state machine where code is law, all trustless, verifiable, without intermediaries. This is obviously a great use case for DeFi, because finance in the end is kind of the forefront of where we right now compete with each other and where we do want code as law. But in general, this is what really can enable the future of, I think, almost any application and kind of set us free from not necessarily regulations, but free from unfair regulations or unequal standards. What's really great about the world computer is composability, which allows for a Cambrian explosion of products. Really, with smart contracts, we build tiny money Legos, which we compose into further DeFi products. Right, you build a simple DEX, you build perhaps a restaking product, and this allows a third-party team to come in and just build an entirely new product, which is why Ethereum is so powerful, right? There's no need to whitelist new products. The Ethereum Foundation does not need to interact with these smart contracts being deployed, and you might build a product that in the end forms the backbone. These individual protocol interactions are, of course, extremely secure. When one smart contract calls another smart contract, that's no issue whatsoever. You remain within this secure world computer state where no one can mess with your API calls. They don't disappear. However, for me and for Union, we believe the one global world computer in the end is dystopian. A single world computer isn't censorship resistant. It's basically a single sequencer queue. And most of all, it also cannot scale. It cannot actually bank the unbanked. It cannot handle global finance. In the end, we're still stuck with at most like 400 TPS, not something that can handle world finance. Modular architecture solved this in a few cases. And on the security perspective, is extremely competitive. We've got shared security, which across different L2s and app chains leads to massive economic security for any app. We obviously do execution proofs in ZK rollups, which, to be honest, are even better than shared security because they provide mathematical, indisputable correctness. And finally, right now, with like Celestia and Avail and such, we finally have like data availability, and with Astria and Conduit, we separate out sequencing into a different stack, which helps against sensor attacks. In the end, right now, with the modular stack, I think it's already better than kind of the monolithic L1 stack. And modular is on the rise. The amount of chains connected to each other through kind of standardized protocols, mainly IBC, has grown tremendously and is only more growing. However, as it stands right now, kind of this whole modular thesis completely falls apart. It just cannot succeed yet. Because what we gain with all this fancy technology in security, we lose in composability at the moment. We like to refer to asynchronous composability, which really is sending a bridge message from one chain to the other between two smart contracts and handling that. And right now, it's simply not as good as synchronous composability. We built all these fancy bridging standards, right? Perhaps a single signature relayer, perhaps a multi-sig bridge, which I think everyone is aware gets hacked all the time. Maybe MPC-based like XLR. And finally, you can go into consensus verification, state verification, but we really don't see many of those bridges yet out there. We're really in the kind of leftmost quadrant at the moment. And without proper asynchronous composability, really modular fails. The current interop that we have can get completely attacked by many different parties out there. Most common what we see right now is kind of hacker groups like Lazarus attacking bridges and emptying them out. But what we've really forgotten as well is that in the end we built crypto to create a system that's resilient against nation-state attackers, right? And with current interop protocols, we have oracles, validators, multi-sig holders situated in the US. So obviously that's a target for the SEC. We have bridges being completely in control of their team. And to be honest, like, why do we do smart contracts? Because we don't want the team that has built the product to control the product. We want something that's pure, that's abstract, that's mathematical. So right now, if I want to do composability between an app chain and some like app-specific L2 for DeFi, this composability can be completely attacked. In the Ethereum space, an interaction between Uniswap and a vault contract, obviously completely secure. And truly, we cannot ditch interop security. As I said, right now, we basically enshrined oracles as intermediaries, deviating from Code's law. We completely lack atomic execution. Right now, for those building on top of bridges, so many different broken states can happen inside of your protocol. Funds are kind of in limbo. They might reappear on Ethereum. They might stand in an intermediate chain. Really, synchronous composability at the moment is Web3. And to be honest, asynchronous composability and Web2 is really Web2. Bridging, to be honest, has been a bit of a disappointment. Really, with Union, what we ask ourselves is, how do we make asynchronous composability as good as synchronous? What we are truly obsessed with is bringing this trustless security level that you see in the EVM to the full modular stack. And this is probably one of the hardest problems to solve in crypto at the moment, touching probably every single point in the stack. Really, it comes down to a few key points. And one of them is a very philosophical one. What we need to do is truly invert control. If we look at how interop is being done right now, basically a bridging protocol vets different chains and might choose to support them. For those that have tried to get support from perhaps Layer 0 or Wormhole, this is only really possible if your chain has a massive community, raised 100 million from A16Z, and it can be next in line. Otherwise, you might be waiting for 12 to 60 months to get support. To me, interoperability is not a privilege. DYDX was capable of building like a great app chain specific product because they had the community and the following to get bridging support. Where we have to ask ourselves, how do we enable the next 10,000 startups to also build their app specific chain or their app specific L2 and gain full control of their product? If you think about it, doing this like app specific model is far better for the product in the end. Who really wants a product where your users pay 300 million in gas a year to the underlying L2? Right? You want that value to flow back into your token, or you simply want your user interactions to be cheaper, and for them you use your product way more. What we need on top of that is unstoppable systems. So I've already alluding to this, but if we're going to get this 10,000 roll-up future, these specific app chains, not all of them will be aligned with certain jurisdictions. There's differences in regulation between the US and Europe, for example. Does that mean that if Europe outlaws privacy chains, but the US allows them, interop providers need to completely outlaw them as well? Is that a fair solution? I don't think so. And finally, we need to hyperscale. What we see right now is bridges kind of support 80 to 100 chains. Some of them struggle to scale up, and really no protocol out there right now can handle this massively scaled future. And in the end, we need to abide by a few things. Two of them obviously has to be permissionless, ties into the inversion of control, and it has to be fully trustless. We cannot have a system with oracles. We need to have the same quality as Ethereum has. To me, security really is not pick and choose. Just like every website should have SSL TLS, interoperability should be fully secure. Right now, we see some bridging protocols kind of go into the pick your security model, choose what security you want for what message. But really what this leads to is fragmentation again. This makes it completely impossible for builders to reason about their product, what they're integrating with, and just adds vulnerabilities. Tornado Cash was a fundamentally sound protocol, worked perfectly fine, except people didn't have a proper look at the DAO itself and how that could be used to take control of the protocol. Seeing that as kind of a lower security standard than you need for the actual mixer. And that was used by an attacker to gain full control. Imagine perhaps a protocol saying that they want the highest security for asset transfers, because those are most often stolen, but then doing some of their governance methods with a lower security standard, allowing for exactly the same attack to happen. Now, really, if you want to get this highest security level across the stack, you need to do consensus verification. Consensus verification is what's used by Succinct Labs telepathy, which is what all of this like ZK light client hype is about, and inherits the underlying security of the chain. Instead of relying on oracles, relayers, or perhaps an eigenlayer AVS, instead you inherit the security of the two chains connecting to each other. And when you think of consensus verification, you really have to go towards ZKPs. ZKPs make sure that you can do consensus verification across this full stack. Because in the end, we don't want to be spending about 50% of block space on interop, right? If we have this future while all of these different L2s are communicating with each other, we can't be filling up the blocks and wasting millions of gas on just doing these bridging transfers. So we need something that basically compresses all of this and that massively scales it if it's going to be as good as smart contracts communicating with each other. And in the end, this permissionless nature leads to hyperscaling. Interoperability is a right. And like I alluded to, if the Ethereum Foundation had needed to whitelist every single contract, would have about 100 contracts on Ethereum right now and no traction at all on DeFi. Ethereum in the end would have failed. In the end, for modular to succeed, if the interop layer itself needs to vet all of these different rollups appearing, it will fail and won't be able to outscale monolithic stacks. To us, we bet big on IBC, the interop protocol that originates in the Cosmos stack, but right now is scaling outside of it. All of this IBC traction that we've seen, right now it supports more chains than any other interop protocol, is completely organic. It's because chains can integrate themselves to the interop layer, instead of the interop layer needing to integrate chains. And that's what, to me at least, composability in crypto is all about. You can choose to integrate with other parties without needing their permission to integrate with you. So what are we doing with Union about this? We're working on basically the first ZK IBC solution. Initially, we focused a lot on the Cosmos ecosystem. We support any Cosmos chain that's out there. And more recently, we're diving into Celestia and Avail-specific rollups, supporting any sovereign rollup that's out there. More recently, we've started working together with Scroll on their Lightline technology to connect as well to IBC chains. And so this is kind of the architecture that we're releasing this year that's going to enable us to scale to 500 to 1,000 chains. This, to me, is still kind of the suboptimal architecture, because in reality what we're doing is generating many different ZK proofs and sending them to many different chains. So in the end, the more ecosystems we have, the more proofs we are generating, and the more proofs need to be verified on chain. The truly cool technology is the next step to this, which relies on proof aggregation, where we take all of these light client updates generated on all of these different chains and create one proof to rule them all. This is where you can do the really cool stuff, like coincident of ones, just-in-time liquidity, and basically you end up in a state where every single blockchain just needs to allocate about 230k gas a block to have full interop with whatever other chain they want. Be connected to 10,000 chains at the same cost as being connected to 100 chains. This is kind of what we're working towards in our 5-year plan. At the moment, proof-of-proof technology does work. It's simply too slow. You cannot generate this for every block yet. For this, we need GPU acceleration and ZK ASICs, but this is coming, and this is kind of the end state of Interop, the God protocol. We can do better than this. So my take-home message for you guys and what we believe in, horizontal scalability is the future. Even though we scale Ethereum with rollups, we are sharding it, we are creating more rollups. More app chains are created every day. Different L2s with different architectures, Move L2s, Eclipse L2s. We're seeing this Cambrian explosion of products happening right now. To enable this future to actually work and compose and be attractive to end users, we need light clients, we need ZKPs. And finally, the take-home message, the future is modular. If you guys want to follow more on us, check out our progress, go to union.build, check us out on Twitter @UnionBuild, and give me a follow @0xKaiserKarel. I tweet about this regularly and I think do most of the mindshare on this. Thank you guys.